Hi, this is Sarah Mikesell with the Poultry site, and today we're here with Dr. Tom Delfonso. He is the Worldwide Animal Nutrition Focus Area Director with the U.S. Soybean Export Council. Thanks for being with us again, Tom.
Great to be here, Sarah. I look forward to our conversation.
Thanks so much. And today, Tom and I are going to talk about layer consistency. And we'll dive right into our questions because we've got a lot to cover, Tom. Layer producers are under constant pressure to reduce feed costs, and the conversation often starts with price per ton of protein. Why is that an incomplete way to evaluate a protein source, and where should the conversation start instead?
Right, very good. Well, when it comes to a protein source, there's no better source than soybean meal derived from U.S. soy. It's a very consistent source of the essential amino acids and the metabolizable energy that's needed. And if you have a consistent source of these essential nutrients in the diet, you're better able to match the nutrient requirements of an entire flock of animals that you're providing. So you're providing one feed to many, many, many different birds at one time. And knowing what's in that feed is very important to getting that diet balanced correctly.
Very good. Egg operations are graded on more than just hen day production. Can you help producers connect the dots between what goes into the feed and what comes out in terms of egg size, shell quality, and grade distribution? What is egg uniformity actually worth in dollar terms?
Oh, very good. This was actually the topic of my PhD dissertation, so it's one of my favorite topics. We
Lucky.
looked at we looked at the sources of variance in laying hen production, whether it was from the diet or their environment, and of course, the diet is extremely important. As far as making money in the egg industry, yes, cost is important, but revenue should be higher than cost, or you're not making money. And to make revenue in the egg industry, you don't just need a good number of eggs, you need a good size distribution. You want those eggs to be grade A large, where you get the highest revenue per unit of animal protein. If they're too small, like peewees, or too big, like jumbos, you don't get as much revenue per unit as you do when you're hitting that target weight range. So having a diet that's well balanced, as well as good genetics, good management, good environmental practices in the building, will get those animals to not only meet their genetic potential, but to do so uniformly and to produce eggs uniformly in size and weight.
It says one of the questions that was there was, what is egg uniformity actually worth in dollar terms? Can we put a dollar value to that, Tom, at this point?
So the dollar number that I like to refer to goes back to a penny per kilogram of animal protein produced. And that may
Interesting.
sound like a small amount, it's only
Right.
pennies, but when you're only making a few cents per pound or per kilogram, then that can be 20-30% of revenue. So let me repeat that. Um, Revenue is made in the egg industry by producing lots of eggs of good size in that target weight range. And what we have seen is that by optimizing the diets, yes, at least cost, but also to meet the genetic potential of the animals, getting an additional penny per pound of animal protein is completely feasible, and that's about 2 cents per kilogram. So this adds up quite a bit. For an operation, a large operation producing 20,000 tons of feed per year,
Right.
let's say feeding those layers, that could be as much as $3 million to their bottom line by
Wow.
getting better feed efficiency, by getting better egg production. It is enormous. And that's because the soybean meal plays an enormous role in the ability to produce those eggs. It provides the essential amino acids and metabolizable energy, and differences in profitability due to high quality ingredients versus low quality ingredients
Right.
has a big impact on the bottom line.
Interesting. Very good. Layer operations have access to daily production data in a way that other species don't. How does that change the way producers and nutritionists should think about ingredient consistency?
Yeah, very good. And again, this is one of my favorite topics because I did research early in my career looking at the effect of variability on laying performance. And what we looked at specifically was variance in metabolizable energy, going up and down every day versus a consistent diet where you have a consistent source of metabolizable energy, such as soybean meal made from US soy. And what we found was that when the variability of the diet increased, feed conversion increased, which means feed efficiency went down. So
Okay.
what happens is when an animal experiences a nutrient deficiency, that laying hen, she will eat more feed to
Yeah.
make up for that. But if the animal experiences higher metabolizable energy than is needed, it'll just convert into fat. And
Okay.
so the net result is that having variability of metabolizable energy means that feed consumption goes up without egg production or egg weight going up.
Got it.
So this has to do with the animals compensating for that variability and it costing them in feed efficiency.
Right. It's just wasted feed, in other words, right, Tom?
It is wasted feed, and that
From
could
a from a producer standpoint, it's wasted feed. If right, if you were where you needed to be, it wouldn't you wouldn't be the hen wouldn't be eating as much, right?
you got it. You
On
got it.
either side of that, right?
Exactly on either side of that. If it's too low in energy, the bird will increase consumption in order to
Right.
get the calories that are needed. But that could mean that they're over consuming other nutrients, and that's just added
Right.
cost. That's not going to a benefit. And if they have too much energy over time, they'll lower their feed consumption, and in that case, they could be deficient in some critical nutrients. So
Right.
it's variance is all bad
Yeah.
in this case.
Got it. Very good. Well, we'll move on. Thanks for clarifying that. One of the central claims about soybean meal derived from U.S. soy is superior amino acid digestibility. What does that mean in practical terms for a nutritionist formulating layer diets? And why does the consistency of that digestibility matter as much as the level itself?
Right, very good. So, nutritionists have come a long way throughout my career. For example, we started looking at essential amino acids, limiting amino acids, the relationships between those total amino acids. But really, in the last 10 and 20 years, it's all been about digestibility. And
Right.
digestibility has two main components: the diet and the animal. So the
Okay.
diet has to be highly digestible, which means that in the case of soybean meal, there's no heat damage. The beans are mature when they were processed into soybean meal. So if you have things like green beans or heat damaged beans, the soybean meal may not be as digestible, and sometimes you can't see that by visibly looking at it. You have to
Right.
measure and the second factor is the animal. In order to measure digestibility, you need to look at how well the animal digests it, and that includes having a healthy digestive system. It
Mhm.
includes the animal reaching its genetic potential, in this case, consuming the nutrients, the essential amino acids that are needed to produce that dozen eggs at
Right.
the right size and economically. And so digestibility is also a factor of health, is also dependent on the health of the animal. The digestive tract can be damaged by undigested proteins. We can see a relationship between a healthy gut, high quality ingredients, and high performing animals. That's what you want. If any one of those three things are poor gut health, poor ingredient quality, poor management, it can only go downhill from there. So getting all three of those right, to meet the genetic potential of today's modern layer genetics requires healthy animals, and high quality feed.
Research comparing soybean meal from different origins has shown meaningful differences in egg weight, with hens fed U.S. origin soybean meal averaging 65.4 grams per egg versus 62.1 grams for Brazil origin soybean meal. How do you explain these differences mechanicalistically, and how significant is a 3-gram difference at production scale, Tom?
Right. Let me work backwards. So first of all, there's been some great work done on exactly what you described. Having a high quality soybean meal, providing those essential amino acids and metabolizable energy, will get the animal as close to the genetic potential as you can as far as the diet is concerned.
Right.
Having good management, good health, and good biosecurity are all extremely important also. But those differences that you describe are because when the animal gets her nutrient requirements met, she will produce eggs at that size that is expected. Then the economics, in poultry production and in layer production, I would say in particular, we're always, of course, focused on cost. We're always focused on lowering the cost of the diet. But that doesn't mean your ingredients should be low quality and low cost.
Right.
Because it's pay me now or pay me later, right?
Right.
So, and what I mean by that is it's better to look at the cost per unit of animal protein produced. Because that is really what the bottom line profitability of modern poultry operations, whether it's broilers or layers or any other species for that matter, it's revenue minus cost. And the revenue comes from good egg size, good egg production, minus the cost of feed. Now, the other thing is you can lower the cost of feed if you balance the diet on those digestible amino acids and metabolizable energy, and you take consistency into account. So for feed formulators, if you have ingredients that are inconsistent, you should penalize them by using a safety margin, which means you should discount, you should lower your assumption about the quality you're receiving, and that will actually make your diet more expensive. So you may have purchased less expensive ingredients, but when you purchase lower quality ingredients, you're going to have higher feed costs, and you're going to have lower animal performance. And that's what I mean by pay me now or pay me later. You're going to be paying at the processing plant or when you get revenue for your eggs when they're graded. You won't get the level of production or egg size that you could be getting by adopting a preference for soybean meal made from U.S. soy.
Very good. Beyond egg quality, research has also shown differences in eggshell strength and albumin quality, depending on the protein source used during both the growing and laying periods. Why does soybean meal origin affect shell and albumin quality, and how does that affect a producer's revenue?
Well, let's talk about how differences in origin make a difference. And it's quite remarkable that it is in fact the sustainable farming practices of the U.S. soy farmer that are making that difference. And let me explain how that gets all the way to shell quality and albumin quality in a second. The U.S. soybeans are produced by family farms. They know their soil, they know their cropland, and they know what inputs are needed at various places in the field to get a uniform and level of those essential amino acids and metabolizable energy at high levels. U.S. soy dries naturally in the field. So whereas soybeans harvested from, for example, Brazil in very wet climates are very high in moisture and require mechanical drying, often through dryers that burn eucalyptus logs. And that drying causes inconsistency in nutrient composition and heat damage.
Right.
The other is oftentimes when the beans are harvested in tropical climates, you get a lot of green beans. They're not mature.
Right.
So that again has lower digestibility. Now, I promise I'm going to get to that egg question, but I really wanted to describe why and how the quality differences exist from soybean meal derived from U.S. soy versus those of South American origin. So now, when you have a diet that is consistent in essential amino acids and metabolizable energy, you're providing a healthy diet that's helping to keep playing a very big role in keeping that gastrointestinal system functioning like a high performance race car. You're providing the fuel that's needed, and having a healthy digestive system means every single nutrient is affected. That includes the lysine coming from your soybean meal. It includes the calcium coming from your dical or your limestone. So as a result, you get better egg production, you get solid shells, good shell quality, and you get very good nutrient composition of the eggs and egg mass production by having the essential amino acids that are needed to do so provided in that soybean meal of high quality. So that's a long way to get there.
Right.
But it really is those farming practices that lead to that difference in quality and in profitability by adopting a preference for soybean meal derived from U.S. soy.
Excellent, Tom. And I'm leading into the next question connected to what you just talked about, but U.S. soy carries a sustainability story rooted in how American farmers manage their land. For a layer producer selling into global markets, how does that sustainability story connect to their own business growth and sourcing commitments?
So I think the layer industry in particular benefits from having soybean meal derived from U.S. soy in a number of ways. First of all, those sustainable farming practices that I described means that if you adopt a preference for U.S. soy versus other origins, you can report to your shareholders, to your consumers, that you have made a management decision that lowers your carbon footprint. And I think consumers are concerned about where their eggs come from in many ways more than most other animal proteins. They want to know what the animals were fed, how they were raised. They want the animals to be healthy and biosecure, of course. And having a major ingredient in the diet, I would say the most important ingredient in the diet being soybean meal derived from U.S. soy, provides that sustainability benefit that can be marketed. The second is, as we've been discussing this entire interview, having the consistency of those essential amino acids and the metabolizable energy means that you're going to have consistent egg quality and the highest revenue source that you can get by having the eggs of the right size and more uniform. So the consumer is interested in having consistency in the products that they purchase, in having sustainable sources of animal protein. And so there's all of this benefit of downstream at the consumer level that can be communicated. Also, because of the critical role that soybean meal plays in the diet, you can lower the cost of feed, therefore lower the cost of eggs.
Right.
At the same time, you're increasing revenue by getting, as you mentioned, those research studies, higher egg production, higher egg mass, better shell quality, all apply to revenue. So companies that produce eggs can be business sustainable. They can stay in business because they have this tool that allows them to lower the cost of feed and increase revenue at the same time.
And it's such a foundation to the diet, right? To the soy or to the poultry diet, right? I mean, it is core.
It is. In fact, research in the last 10 years has shown that soybean meal derived from U.S. soy, because of its high digestibility in essential amino acids, that contributes to metabolizable energy. So metabolizable energy, we think of carbohydrates and fat, but it also comes from having highly digestible amino acids. We're seeing high quality soybean meal derived from U.S. soy having nearly as much metabolizable energy as corn.
Right.
And so soybean meal at high inclusion rates, 20, 25, 30% even in poultry diets that we can see, is the base ingredient. I've worked with in animal nutrition all over the world and seen corn soy diets, wheat soy diets, sorghum soy diets, and I realized joining USSEC, they were all soy diets.
Right.
They were all soy diets, and every other ingredient was an additive, corn included. Yes, it's providing a good and inexpensive source of calories, but you can't get the nutrient bundle that you get in any other ingredient than soybean meal derived from U.S. soy. It's so perfect in its essential amino acid profile and the nutrient bundle and its consistency that it should be considered the base ingredient in all animal diets, in all poultry diets in particular.
Right. Very good. Well, hey, Tom, thank you so much for all the information. We've talked a lot about broilers before, but it's great to talk about how this fits in with hens and with the egg industry. So I really appreciate all your feedback and getting to learn a little bit more about your PhD work as always. So appreciate your time
of course. Thank you so much. I'm always excited to talk about that, but I also like seeing other research out there that proves the same point. That's good science when you can repeat it, isn't it?
Yes, fantastic. Thanks again, Tom. This is Sarah Mikesell with the Poultry Site.